we want to look at Singapore, because our people have been like, oh, we are so defeated, we can't do this, we have to do that. And like we keep telling you, what is happening in your land is not new. It has happened in other people's lands. All we can do is to learn from them. Like Samuna will always say, copy and paste. It's not that difficult. Go and see what they did to them and see how they rose from the bondage of Britain. Singapore is a good example. You are seeing that you people are traveling to Singapore, you're seeing everything happening there, but you did not know what it was. It was worse than our place. In terms of culture, in terms of so many things, in terms of lack, they didn't even have resources. Nothing. They rose from the ashes. And today, see what they have. So this is their president that helped them to do that job. We are bringing the work for you. We're going to be playing. It's a long video. So please be patient with us. But we'll break it from time to time and interject so that you will hear. It's not that we cannot tell you the story, but we want you to hear from the horse's mouth, as they will say. Hear from them. So it's not he say, she say. You don't need this thing that you're running up and down inside bush with pieces of metals. Looking for, say, we are about to send missile. I wonder who you're sending missile with your pieces of metal that you brought and painted red, blue, black, green. Please stop this. This is 21st century. We need more brain. And that's why we're calling our women to wake up. In the time past, women could not participate because it's boost gas, boost gas, boost gas. But today, by the grace of God, it has been brought to the table of negotiations, dialogue, brain work. So you don't need all this intimidation and trying to scare people, cutting people's head and putting on the table. You are not a salvage. You're not, that's not who we are. That's not who we are. Do not become what you're trying to correct. We are people that talk. That's why in Igbo culture, for instance, we have a lot of proverbs. These are coded words. When we give you one proverb, you can go home with it. That proverb is enough. It's like 2 pages of essay. Because when you think about it and the implications of the proverb that your father or your mother gave you, you will get all the solution, all the answers that you are looking for will be inside it. This is who we are. We talk. We negotiate. This is who we are. We don't go around running up and down inside bush looking for whose head to cut. We are not like that. Please stop. So listen to this. We will come in from time to time. Thank you, Sister Mona. Thank you, our viewers.
Thank you.
Is a very fitting person to be the first Collins family lecturer. When he became Prime Minister of Singapore, it was a relatively poor place. There was some danger of ethnic turmoil. Indeed, there had been riots. Today, it is a rich and prosperous country. And if the rest of the world could accomplish what Singapore has accomplished, the world would be a better and more prosperous place. Lee Kuan Yew started his education at Raffles College in Singapore, and then went on to Cambridge University, and then to the Middle Temple, became a barrister at law, returning to Singapore in 1950, practicing law. In 1954, he became Secretary General of the People's Action Party, and in 1956 to 58, he negotiated Singaporean independence with the British. In 1959, he was sworn in as Prime Minister of Singapore. During his time as Prime Minister, he built the finest infrastructure, airport, ports, roads, and communications network in the region. He established a public housing system based on a Provident Fund savings pool that has given every Singaporean citizen a tangible stake in the system. And he has developed one of Asia's best health and education systems. In 1990, he stepped down as Prime Minister and became a senior minister in the government. Indeed, he kept thinking about the future of Singapore and looking forward. And among his many efforts, as he described recently in a BBC interview, was to learn at age 70 about the internet and to help his country become the most wired state in Asia. He is a man who never stops thinking, never stops looking ahead with larger visions. His views are sought by respected senior statesmen on all continents, and he has written.
All right. So we allow this part of the video to play only because we want you, at least from my standpoint, we want you guys to see what people are doing with the education, with the Western education that they have received. They actually use it to uplift their people. They actually use it to bring change. They actually use it to get up there with their colonial masters and reach down towards their people and put them up. What did we do with ours? We use it to speak dead English that is not even alive anymore in the encyclopedia. We use it to intimidate our people. We use it to make fun of those that can't speak English very well as if it's their mother's tongue. We use it to get up to political states only for us to know that we are not competent enough to do the work. But because we are the only one that can speak English and use it to subjugate our people, we are sitting in that post knowing that we cannot give what we don't have. And this thing has been ongoing for years, especially in Africa, where you go to Western, get your Western education, come back, and all you do is to speak English and wear coats and wear coats. Are we talking about our people that
portfolio,
right? They like to carry portfolio, right?
Yeah.
So if you remember those people, if every one of us remember one person that your village collected money for and sent to overseas, tell me any of them that came back and did anything right in that village. Either they went mental or they will start playing drafts at the market junction. Or they will leave town. They will leave all the town where they can get more and come and settle in the village.
Yes.
You will see hardly every one of them. None. And then the one that did go to town started hanging, becoming the internal colonizers.
Yes.
That will continue to hold.
And they'll be calling them professor.
And they were calling them professor.
What are you professing? You can't do any project. You can't do any research. You can't publish any article. Nothing that you have changed in your environment. The people that contributed money to send you to go and acquire that knowledge. What difference have you made? Professor my fruits.
They can't even read written words.
No.
They will be following constitutional force majeure. They have not read. They will sit there. Somebody will deceive them just by wearing wig and speaking like an American.
Yes.
They will misroad.
You say, I followed Tony Nnadi for 20 years. Yet you don't know what Tony Nnadi is saying. You cannot even comprehend what, and you call yourself a professor. All the materials he gave to you, you did not read any. You don't understand them. Yet you're telling our people that have been following Tony Nnadi for 20 years. You don't know what he stands for. You don't know what he's pushing for. You don't know all the things he's doing. The simple document he gave you, you have not read. And you call yourself a professor. How do you become a professor? I thought professors should read documents, understand and teach others. If you that you're a professor, you have not read the document, who will teach my people? That is why we come here every Saturday, because we read the documents. We stumbled into it and say, wow, this proposition is wonderful. This is what we need. And we took it upon ourselves to come here every Saturday to break it down to our people. What have you done, professor? What have you done, doctor? What have you done with the education that my people sponsored you to go and receive? What have you done with it? You now become an internal colonizer. You go to Abuja, be doing meeting. Oh, first prime minister, I'll be first minister of the Republic of Nigeria. What did you do? You continue to subjugate us. And then to make matter worse, you go and beg uncircumcised Philistines and tell them that you will kneel down for you to get presidency. To do what without presidency? In a sea of with it. Are you going to cook soup with the presidency? We told you that 1999 Constitution is the culprit here. This is what has held us down. Let's bring it down. No. You prefer to go and kneel down because it's about your stomach. You kneel down so they will give you money. Beggy, Babi Allah. That's what you want to become. And we said all of you should clear from our way. We are here to do the needful to get freedom for our people. As if matter is not bad enough. Some people that say they are doing Biafra, they now want to go and form APC political party. We've told you people, stop all these lies and manipulations. We are smarter than you. Yes, we are. Before you fly, we know where you're going to land. We're already seeing you. We've warned you severally. You were with Ekperima, Ojono Eboji. We continue to shout here. You came out. We send the Kuzo. See road. It's not following road. No, you enter another bush road. Enter, this one is not political suicide. You now enter another evil forest in the name of deceiving my people. All just to deceive my people because they don't know any better. You speak English, my people will think that you actually know what you're saying. My heart is breaking. My heart is breaking. My brothers, how long are we going to talk to you before you develop sense? Please, go ahead. Let me just stop it here because my heart is breaking. My heart is breaking. My heart is breaking. It's not fair. It is not fair at all. It's not fair. It's not fair.
I'm familiar with most of the first generation of anti-colonial leaders to which I belong. They all had strong nationalist, anti-colonial convictions and wanted to prove that their people or their peoples could measure up to their former rulers. Unhappily, many third world leaders who had successfully demolished the old order failed to build a new one.
That's what they do.
Because building a new order demanded different and more complex capabilities.
Yep.
Decision-making in economics to achieve the highest returns on capital was not their forte.
Nope.
They
He's
could enthuse
sleeping
their
with 20 women at the same time.
to keep up the fight against the old regime. And they had oversimplified what needed to be done after the colonizers had handed over power. Many leaders actually believed their own rhetoric, that once they were rid of their exploiters, there would be wealth aplenty to go around. And the economic models that they admired were socialists. Why did these leaders follow the wrong model? Were they ignorant?
Yep.
On the contrary, many like Michael Manley, the late Prime Minister of Jamaica, they were highly intelligent, and he was a graduate of a distinguished institution.
Don't let that fool
the
you.
London School of Economics.
Anamano.
But they admired the early independence heroes, Nehru, Sukarno, Mao Zedong, Tito. None of these early freedom fighters believed that wealth was something that had to be created by entrepreneurs, people who raised capital, organized workers to produce goods and services that others wanted and would pay for because their prices were competitive.
It's a no-brainer. They're just not
They
smart.
all believed that there were shortcuts to prosperity, and they thought the best way was by state intervention. This was a mistake that otherwise well-intentioned leaders like Julius Nyerere of Tanzania made. He was a good, honest Christian, but held doctrinaire ideas on how to modernize Tanzania. His policies were ill-suited for a small-scale African agricultural economy. And both Julius Nyerere and Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia failed to develop their economies. On the other hand, Jomo Kenyatta and his successor Daniel Arap Moi of Kenya made their country more prosperous in spite of considerable corruption. What was the difference? It lay in the interventionist state policies of the first two compared to the free market policies of Kenya. I've been asked time and again, how was it that my colleagues and I avoided falling into this trap?
Uh-oh. Sister, go ahead. Go ahead. Let me fix this.
So, my people, you can hear, because like we said, like Stamina said at the beginning, you are carrying a dead child that is rotten. And you are deceiving yourself that this child is alive. But your neighbors are saying that your child is dead and is smelling.
Hello.
You're not getting the expected result, yes, because either you are ignorant or you're criminal in mind. If you're ignorant, then get people that know. But no, it's mainly corruption. You want to cheat your people. You want to kill your people. You want to destroy your people. You're not getting the result that you know we should get. But you're not stepping aside to bring in people that know what to be done, so that it will be done and they will get the expected result. You make it look as if it's impossible to actually lead the people, as if it's impossible to develop Africa. It is not impossible. We've had people leading us. That's what it is. We'll say it again. It is not impossible to develop Nigeria. We've had stupid people leading us. And we said, enough of all this nonsense. Enough of all this. Get out of the way. Let's get this fixed. And we said, in fixing things, we'll go to the foundation. We cannot continue to build on a faulty foundation. We have said it time with that number. Listen to people that develop their land and learn one or two things. Thank you very much.
Before I answer this question, let me start by explaining how I became politicized. The first turning point of my life was World War II. The way the British was routed by the Japanese. Before the war broke out, our British rulers feared that the Asians would panic if bombs and shells fell upon them. When the bombs and shells actually came, it was the British bosses who were shot and packed their families off. The Chinese, Indian, and Malay subjects stoically bore their sufferings. That aura of overwhelming superiority with which the British held us in thrall was broken, never to be restored. Another turning point was the experience of the brutality and cruelty of our Japanese conquerors. They had portrayed themselves as liberators of fellow Asians from the white man, but they left us in no doubt that they were the new masters of the so-called Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. And to punish the Chinese in Singapore for supporting the nationalist government of China with donations to fight Japanese aggression, within the first 15 days of their conquest of Singapore, they picked off at random 50,000 to 100,000 Chinese youths out of concentration centers and machine gunned them on the beaches. I had first-hand experience of Japanese militarism when a Japanese platoon was decided to build themselves in my home. My family had fled to the countryside, and it was 4 days of hell. I was roughed up, slapped, made to kneel down by a sentry, kicked in the chest, sent sprawling because I did not know that I had to bow to him to cross the bridge. I felt that the dark ages had descended upon us. And I watched 80,000 dejected British, Indian, and Australian troops march into captivity in 48 hours. Many of my friends shared this harrowing experience. We asked ourselves, why? What right had the Japanese to do this to us? Why did the British not fight the Japanese more ferociously?
They came to steal, brother.
And when the British came back after 3.5 years, after the bombs in Nagasaki, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the communists who had organized the resistance in the jungles of Malaya attempted to grab power as theirs as of right. But I feared them as much as I feared the Japanese. As a result, many nationalists like me were born. After the war, my contemporaries and I gathered in London. We were studying in various universities in England, and there was ferment in the air. India had got its independence in 1947. So had Pakistan, Burma, Ceylon. Why not Malaya, which then included Singapore? The British cut off Singapore from Malaya as they prepared to give independence to the Malays in Malaya. They wanted to keep Singapore as one link in a chain of naval bases from Portsmouth to Gibraltar to Suez to Aden to Singapore to Sydney. But after the British lost Suez in 1956, they agreed to let us rejoin Malaya. By then it was too late. The Malay majority was not prepared to treat the Chinese, Indian, and other ethnic groups as equal citizens when they became as numerous as the Malays.
Go ahead, Sister Queen.
People, when you listen to this man, does it not sound familiar? Everything he's saying here is what we've been through. It's as if he took page from my land and repeating it, which is why we tell you that what we're going through is not new. So if it's not new, why can't we sit down and do what others did to get the type of result we want? Why are we jumping around this forest like we don't have brains? He said, failure to develop the economy. Have you developed the economy in Nigeria? Do you even have plan to develop it? There's no plan. So you don't expect to get development. You don't expect to get infrastructure. You don't expect to get anything because the people that are driving your vehicle don't even know how to drive a car.
They don't have a license.
They don't even have a license. They don't know how to start a car, let alone drive it. So why do you expect to be doing the wrong thing and expect to get the right result? We need to understand our uniqueness. We need to understand who we are. Then target the weakness of the enemy, which is what we are doing through Ninas. That is a movement. We came together. They have a structure already, 16 boxes. How many people have gone through it?
They're waiting for the Americana with wig to tell them to go left and right. They don't know how to read.
I will tell you that if you can actually go through this thing, it's common sense. You will understand it. You will run with it.
So annoying.
And stop deceiving yourselves. In the name of freedom fighting, you do things that embarrass us. We listen to you, you do not make sense. You're making sense to yourself because you're stupid. Yeah, sorry, you are. That's why what you're saying is making sense to you because you don't know any better. Listen to people like this. Then you begin to understand where Ninas is going, where LNC Ninas is going. And we're here to give you that orientation that you need so that you'll be able to be part of what is going on. Listen to them. It's as if, when I heard this man, it's as if he came and studied the Ninas and LNC book. This is the pattern. This is the path we want to take our people through the rebirth. Take our people through this pathway to get to where we're going. And there's no shortcuts. Anybody telling you there's a shortcut wants to deceive you, cheat you, collect your money, and that's the end. They will all die. They will kill them. There's no shortcut. It took this man 40 years of doing the right thing to turn the brain of their people to get the result that is needed. But you know what? It's not 40 years of trying and failing. It's not 40 years of doing stupid things. It's 40 years of sitting down and following the step one by one through a process. That's what we need. And that is what is on table. That is what Ninas has presented for us, for all Nigerians, and indeed all Africans. We studied these things. We looked at this proposal. We say, if we can go through this proposal, we are even going to be fast because honestly, from what he said, our people are even ahead of where they started. So we will not go through 40 years. Get to where we're going. But you know what? We have to be on the pathway. You cannot be inside forest, dancing around in the forest and expecting that one day you jump out to where you're going. Things do not happen that way. You must follow process. And my people, listen to us. Anybody coming to you, promising you freedom, promising you anything, tell them to give you the proposal on the table. Bring the proposal, let's see it. And then you read it by yourself and see that it's nothing.
My dear, they can't even articulate a proposal, let alone or run it. But please, it's all about Facebook, proposal on Facebook. That's it. Talk, talk, talk. They don't know how to deliver. So they can continue to take us in the wilderness for another 1 million years as if we are brainless. No, if you guys went to school, you don't know how to use your degree. I know how to use my degree. Don't get it twisted.
Simple.
Okay? I didn't go there to learn the English. I went there to learn the strategies and the protocols that will help me deliver results.
Simple.
What were my motivations? First, to get rid of colonialism and be independent.
Simple.
This got us involved in a fight against the communists who were well ahead of us in the struggle against the British. Later, we rejoined Malaya and had to fight the Malay extremists who wanted to dominate other ethnic groups in Malaysia. As a result, in less than 2 years of federation, Singapore was asked to leave. And we had to agree because the alternative was bloodshed, which the Malaysian Prime Minister Tunku Abdul Rahman warned us. So suddenly, in August 1965, we had to create a nation out of a motley collection of Chinese, Indians, Malays, and others who had come to Singapore to seek a better life, but not to be a nation. How did we escape choosing the wrong model? Well, we were helped by the examples of failed policies in many new countries. India, Pakistan, Ceylon, Burma, and Indonesia had gained their independence in the 1940s. Ghana and Nigeria in the 1950s. By 1965, they were not thriving. India's Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru had imbibed socialist theories from his generation of British philosophers, economists, and political scientists when he was a student at Cambridge. A powerful factor then was the example of the British under Clement Attlee, whose Labour government had set out to equalize opportunities and results. Their policies led to the nationalization of key industries, iron and coal, steel mills, petrochemicals, synthetic fiber plants, all became state enterprises. So did the railways, the buses, and all manner of transportation. For more than 4 decades, India made the same car. In 1950, Morris Oxford, in a state-run factory. They called it the Hindustan. No one checked the bottom line for rates of return on capital. Profit was a dirty word associated with the capitalists. Now let me confess that in my student days up at Cambridge in the 1940s after World War II, I was convinced that Britain's welfare state was the highest form of civilized society. And in my teen years, I was a great admirer of Pandit Nehru. But I could see that he had adopted the wrong model by the 1960s. That he had set India on the path of a planned economy with concentration on heavy industries, and his successors carried on with these policies until Prime Minister Narasimha Rao began to change course late in the mid-1990s. But there was another compelling reason for pragmatic solutions. In 1965, when we became independent, Indonesia under President Sukarno, a great orator, was waging an undeclared war, low intensity, which he called konfrontasi, an Indonesian word for confrontation, against Singapore and Malaysia. And in Malaysia, the Tunku, the Prime Minister, wanted to bypass Singapore as Malaysia's commercial outlet. We could not afford to risk our future on theories. We had a daunting task to create a new economy, not one so dependent on entrepot trade with our neighbors. And independence brought worries for our future, not euphoria. We were no longer the commercial, administrative, or military center of the British Empire and Southeast Asia. The British were departing. The odds were against our survival, and we had to ensure our own existence, which we had previously taken for granted. Our first preoccupation for survival, which meant economic viability, had to be solved. Next, security. I cast around for solutions. We reached out first to Hong Kong and Taiwan investors in textiles, garments, plastics, and low value-added products. Later, a UNDP expert working in Singapore described to me how Israel had leapfrogged its neighbors who boycotted them, and exported to Europe and America fruits, flowers, many other things. I thought to myself, why not seek links with the developed countries? Get industrial investments from Europe, Japan, and America. They came, but far and few between. Then, fortuitously, China went into a convulsion of the Cultural Revolution, and it reached a crescendo in 1967. So computer companies like Texas Instruments, Hewlett-Packard, National Semiconductors, they passed over Taiwan and Hong Kong, and we attracted them to Singapore. We had political stability, industrial peace, plus English as our working language, pull factors. 20 years later, we had become a major manufacturer of electronics, computers, and disk drives. The leapfrog strategy succeeded. I worked out another strategy, the other side of the coin. That was to create or to turn Singapore, a third world island, into a first world oasis in a third world region, so that entrepreneurs and their families from the first world would base themselves in Singapore whilst they explored the region. So we established up-to-date facilities in communications and transportation, airport, container port, state-of-the-art telecoms and security, personal and public security, health standards to approximate first world, and a living environment equal to the first world. Later, we improved our cultural facilities, museums, symphony orchestras, visiting artists. The hardware part was easy. Getting people to change their habits to match first world infrastructure that they now had, that was difficult, slow and painful.
Mm-hmm.
We made progress, a series of campaigns involving the whole population.
Yep.
More courtesy, stop spitting, keep public lavatories clean, not a minor item if you want a tourist trade to prosper. And no chewing gum. If you don't want your train doors not to close, and no litter, and no pickpockets. One rewarding decision was to green up the island with trees, palms, shrubs, creepers, flowers, to make Singapore different. We had rain all year round, sunshine. All we needed to do was to plant them and trim them. And we involved the whole population in planting and caring for them. And we made progress. And slowly our people are now acting more like a first world civic society, although there's a long way to go. They still have their telephones buzzing in concerts. We had to do a U-turn to carry our people with us, or we would fail.
You have to.
In place of constant strife and agitation, we had to convince workers and their union leaders that unless we had industrial peace and worker cooperation with management to improve productivity, we would be overwhelmed by our unemployment. The history of Singapore after independence was one hard, long slog to make ourselves relevant and useful to the world, to add value to both foreign investments that we sought and those that we ourselves made with our savings. Our next major task was to establish security, which had to be based on social cohesion of our many races, religions, languages, and cultures. All successor governments of colonial regimes have inherited this problem of multi-tribal, multilingual, multi-religious, multicultural.
That's what they do. Shikota people on.
How to achieve it? Because without a cohesive people at peace with each other, development was not possible. Our solution to the problem of a young nation was a policy of deliberate gradualism in all matters which involved race, language, culture, and religion. We have 77% Chinese, but from different parts of China speaking different and mutually unintelligible dialects. 14% Malay Muslims from different parts of Malaysia and Indonesia. 8% Indians from different parts of India, speaking totally different languages. The rest from Europe and other parts of Asia. We needed a common language. Had we legislated for one, there would have been trouble. Which one? So we encouraged everyone to learn two languages, English and the mother tongue. English is no group's mother tongue, so no one gained any advantage. And we made it our working language. We have not forced or pressure-cooked a national identity. We have refrained from suppressing ethnic cultures, languages, religions, or their sense of separate identity. We aimed for integration, not assimilation.
Integration.
Another
assimilation.
critical decision I made within a year of independence was to build a national service armed force. If we did not have the ability to defend ourselves, nobody, not even our own people, would have faith in our future. Foreign and UN intervention would always come too late.
Yep.
We studied the Swiss, the Swedes, and the Israelis. The Israelis offered help to build a system for a totally national service armed force. We now have a credible defense capability. To produce results, we need a clean government with an effective civil service.
Yep.
and we had to shape the administration to produce an effective instrument of policy. This required strong, fair, and just leaders with a moral strength to command the respect of the people. Unity in the core group of leaders ensured that we sent clear signals to our people and avoided confusion that would have arisen if the team had bickered and split. Leaders must have that sense of being trustees, that they are only temporarily in charge of the destinies of their people, and that their duty is not only to discharge this trust, but also to pass it on to equally trustworthy and competent hands. So luxurious living while our people were left in poverty and backwardness was out. We ensured complete accountability and open separateness between personal assets and public funds.
Yep.
Corruption, which has been a cancer in many societies, had to be eradicated and constantly kept down. A government voted into office needs an efficient, honest administration staffed by officers recruited completely on merit by a politically neutral body. We had an impartial, capable public service commission with a chairman and members who were shrewd at assessing character. Promotions and rewards of scholarships must be made to the best candidates.
Yep.
And they have to share the nation-building philosophy and the development goals of the political leaders. They must also be adequately paid so that temptations would not be too difficult to resist. Once a political system has been corrupted, right from the top, from the very top to the lowest rungs of the bureaucracy, the problem is almost impossible to solve without a revolution. The cleansing and disinfecting has to start from the top and go downwards in a thorough and systematic way. It was a long and laborious process that can be carried out only by a very strong group of leaders with the courage and the moral authority derived from unquestioned integrity.
Yep.
We just managed it and stopped it before it got out of control. Next, we decided that the people should be stakeholders. Soon after separation, I resolved to enable every household to own their own home. If you're going to get the people to take national service seriously, I could not ask other people's sons to fight and die for the properties of the wealthy. So we worked out a personal savings scheme that allowed them to own an apartment painlessly through installments over 20 years. Today, 95% of Singaporean households are homeowners. Their value between 100,000 US to 400,000 US, between a 3-room to a 5-room apartment. Without this home ownership, we would have become like Tokyo, Seoul, or Hong Kong, where the voters in the city are disaffected when they have to pay a large proportion of their salaries in rents. In Singapore, they have voted for the return of the government in 9 successive general elections. They know who will keep the property values of their homes up. Policies must be pragmatic, not dogmatic. I learned early to ignore political correctness and to reject conventional wisdom when it did not accord with reality.
You can say that again.
For example, in the 1960s and 70s, it was politically correct to be anti-American and anti-multinationals. The theory expounded by Latin Americans like Raul Prevesh was that multinationals would reduce them to dependencia. And we did not accept this. And we assiduously courted the MNCs. They had the capital, the technology, the know-how, and the markets. We decided it was the fastest way of learning on the job, working for them and with them. Now, I believe it would be equally mistaken to follow mindlessly the current politically correct and stridently advocated view that democracy is the precondition for economic development. I know it's a heresy in Harvard, Cambridge.
Did you hear that? He said it's a heresy of how Harvard became rich.
Yes.
Talking in front of Harvard now.
I'm telling you, right in front of them, telling them we know the games you've been playing. What else? What boldness are you talking about? Are we passing here?
Yes.
My people, we asked the question, why is it that 60 years after Nigeria gained independence, we have not even begun? 40 years after Singapore gained independence, they could see where they are. It will not take you more than 60. You see, if we put the right thing in place, it won't take us more than 6 months to know we're on the right path. This trial and error is all because people don't know what to do and they're criminals and all they want to do is steal. Look at the man's motivation. His motivation is not the same thing with our own. To get rid of colonialism and get true independence for our people. So why can't we learn from people's mistakes, learn what they have done, and begin to do the same thing? He spoke about stability and good governance. Is that not what we're looking for? But he said you cannot have it except you have economic viability, except you have security. That we ensure the safety of lives and properties. There's no problem in this world that does not have solution. I'm telling you people. My people said it in their idiom. That there's no problem in this world. So, but if you're not putting the right solution to your problem, you will never get it solved. They did not allow Fulani terrorists to go around beheading people.
Beheading everyone and causing banditry and clashing with farmers and herders and all kind of stuff. And our educated professionals are there singing songs for them on channel news.
Covering their eyes as if they did not see what is happening. They knew what their problems were and they started solving them one after the other, not deceiving themselves. They recognized they had many races, many religions, culture, languages. They had all that. They recognized them. They did not start deceiving themselves that they don't have them or start suppressing others. Oh, your cultural identity, you have to suppress it. Some people say, you are too egotic. You don't need to be egotic. You have to be half-scientific or whatever. They recognized people's cultural differences and
integrated them into the system.
Into the system.
Yes.
They did not start deceiving themselves, expecting that one day people will forget who they are. They did not do that. They faced reality. They followed integration, not assimilation. Not telling me to forget I'm an Igbo woman. I will never forget it. That is who I am. That's my DNA. Security meant ability to them, ability to defend themselves from all external aggressors and intruders. Not president's cousin. You have the cousin of your president running around, killing your people and beheading them. And you say you're talking about security? They were ready to eradicate corruption. But how can you eradicate corruption when the constitution that you are trying to build on is
the corruption itself?
Is corruption itself. The constitution was not made by the people, it was imposed on the people. And the aim of the constitution was to steal the people's lands, their resources, and their waterways. Keep the people in perpetual poverty. And they begin to ask, why are criminals? Why do we have criminals everywhere? Oh, these people are criminals. But the people, you kept them in perpetual poverty. No job, no infrastructure, nothing. What do you expect? You heard what he said. He said, once a system is corrupted from the root, He said the only solution that will deliver such a people is revolution. Let's stop deceiving our people. Let's stop deceiving ourselves. You don't know, you don't know. Buhari, you don't know. Buhari, can you step aside and embrace the Nina's proposal that is on the table? All this running around will not help you. Where we are now is only revolution that will help us.
Yep.
No amount of politician, whatever campaign that people are doing will deliver you, because the more you patch, the more it will be leaking. Because you're taking a new material and trying to patch it to old material. You will get a bigger hole. And people will say, Anna patch or no leak. Nigeria is Anna patch or no leak because you are not doing the right thing. Listen to Ninas. Listen to Ninas. Go and study. It will be good for everyone. Hausas, Igbos, Yorubas, Efik, Ijo. Everyone is taken care of by that proposal. Go ahead, Sister Mona, please.
My final and most important decision was to prepare, or rather to plan and prepare for succession, and not leave it to chance. After 3 successful elections in 10 years, since we first won and took office in '59, my old guard colleagues and I were troubled by the caliber of the young men that we had been able to induct. They were the best of our political activists, our supporters, professionals, academics with PhDs, but they were not equal to the original team.
You can say that again.
My original team had been thrown up by the upheavals of the Second World War and were among the best of that generation. Those that didn't have it were knocked out by sheer elimination of events. Now we were not getting the best to volunteer to join us.
Volunteer, you say volunteer,
leaders.
please.
But how? Well, some people are natural alphas. Activists in their school days as school prefects, sport captains, or presidents of college societies. Alphas usually are extroverts with high energy levels. But as these school and college leaders grew older, many did not measure up.
Of course.
The valedictorian in school does not always make it after college.
Yep.
Few of those voted in college as most likely to succeed make it in the real world.
Few.
As they grow older, they need other qualities to stay as leaders. Higher levels of intellectual ability.
Yep.
A steady character. Judgment. A decision-making capability.
Yep.
That can win the confidence of those around them. 7 times from 1959 to 1990, before each election, I had to select 20 to 30 candidates who were likely to make good as ministers, but first as members of parliament, and then some as ministers. The easiest attribute to determine is intelligence. Performance in examinations, IQ tests, SAT scores, they give a fair indication of analytical ability. Many that we fielded with PhDs failed as ministers. They lacked something. When I learned from American corporate leaders that they use psychometric tests to recruit and promote their executives, I recall the epic flight of the 3 astronauts on Apollo 13. If you remember, their spaceship malfunctioned 3,000 miles out in space. Any false move, and they would never return to Earth. They remained calm, collected throughout the ordeal, and trusting their fate to the men at ground control whose instructions they followed meticulously. I concluded that NASA's psychological tests on the ground had successfully eliminated those who were prone to panic in the
Great deal,
countries.
my man. Great deal.
I decided in 1980, therefore, to adopt their practice. And I had psychological and psychometric tests to help us assess the character of candidates, to weed out those who are not likely to succeed.
It's so fun that he's saying this. You know, 99.999% of our people will not even pass this test. They won't even go past
All positions, right?
even almost all of them there, because this is why when some people are on the radio shouting, they don't know what they're doing. Oh,
Yes.
let's go and save them. Oh, no. They wouldn't even know. Like, there is no way in hell they wouldn't even be invited to take the test. Let me not even give them credit.
Yeah.
They will not be eligible to take the test.
Because they're so bastardized, everything is destroyed in their brain. They can't think critically. But I'll tell you, if my forefathers write that test in their language, they will pass it. Because it's all about critical thinking. You see, he did not leave this issue of his succession to chance. Oh, let's bring a Fulani INEC. Fulani INEC that has never done anything right. You want to leave the thing about governance of your people into their hands.
And people are getting ready to go for that election.
And people want to go into it again. Ask yourself, what has been happening for years? What has been happening for years? You are doing the wrong thing and expecting a different result. And you can see degrees does not equate to steady character. As somebody has PhD, professor, does not mean that the character is good or that you can guarantee him as a good leader.
Good decision making.
Good decision making. PhD will not replace critical thinking. It will not.
In Igbo language, it's called Anye Lelele na Anya Roraro.
I'm telling you. What happens when this happens? What happens when you will have to have sense to be able to do it? But we've had the wrong people leading us. There's leadership vacuum in Nigeria and in Africa. That's why we're getting the results we're getting. That's why the things are the way they are. It is no brainer. It's not something that you go and start getting a pastor to prophesy for you to know where things have gone wrong. We've had leadership vacuum. The people leading us, look at people like Okorocha. If you have a company and you want to function like a good, like want to get results, there's no corruption. Somebody like Okorocha cannot manage your company. I told people, I said, why is it that there's only stupid people that are rich in Nigeria? Because things are not right. You have to be corrupt to make money. If you're not corrupt, you will never get to anywhere.
I'm willing to kill too.
I'm willing to kill and destroy things. That is why it is that the people are dying and few people are becoming billionaires and millionaires. If things are right, it will not be few millionaires that we have in Nigeria. We will have our children everywhere performing and doing wonders. Why is it that it's only when our children get out of Nigeria that they become who God has called them to be? Why? Because Nigeria will kill them, destroy every resources that will make them a human being. Few criminals will take it, share it among themselves and say that they are rich, they are billionaires. The only reason you are rich in Nigeria, let me say it again. The only reason you are rich in Nigeria, stinkingly rich, is because you're stealing from the masses.
Yep.
That's it. There is no equity and fairness. You church leaders, the only reason you're making the type of money you're making in Nigeria in the midst of poverty of my people is because you're all criminals. Stop stealing. Let's put things so there'll be fair play. Everybody will become comfortable. That's what we're asking. That's what we're fighting for. We want everyone to become comfortable. Everyone might not be billionaires, but everyone will become comfortable. If they need hospital, they will get it. If they need school, they will get it. If they need road, they will get it. If they need water, electricity. All these things are basic things in the community. For the fact that we don't have it and we are so rich as a country, it shows that people are stealing our resources. And those that are stealing inside are the ones opening doors for those outside. So they're partners. That's the only reason. You don't need anything to tell you what is going on. Go ahead, Sister Mona, please.
But they couldn't help us. They couldn't tell us who was likely to succeed. The prospect of failure forced us to talent spot. After a high attrition rate at the beginning, we improved our selection methods. We threw candidates into the deep end of the pool to test their political skills. Finally, I was concerned that the government machinery of the 31 years had been customized to suit my work style. So I made a conscious effort in my last 2 years to make room for my successor so that he can reconfigure the arrangements. So when a new guard of men in their 40s and 50s took over in 1990, there was no crushing of gears, and instead, in the 1990s, Singapore has repeatedly been rated by Transparency International in Berlin among the top 7 least corrupt countries in the world, the least corrupt in Asia.
Well done.
And we have not become decadent and corrupt after 41 years in office. The old guards set high standards because they were brought up that way. The new guards have been able to maintain the self-discipline and integrity in the midst of growing affluence. Our judiciary and the rule of law are rated by the World Economic Forum and the Institute of Management and Development in Geneva, and PERC, which is a rating agency in Hong Kong, as the best in Asia. It commands the respect of the people and of our investors. And Singapore is ranked by WEF and IMD as the second most competitive nation in the world after the United States. They say I do not listen to my opponents. I do, when they are serious opponents.
Not when they are stupid.
We studied all those items where we were rated poorly, and we set out to do better.
You don't have time to listen to
We
stupid people.
practiced lifelong learning before it became a buzzword.
Lifelong learning.
What were the basic strengths that made this possible?
Mm.
A basic idealism and an integrity that drives the whole system. But new forces are at work. The present leaders grew up in a Singapore that was stable and growing year by year.
Mm-hmm.
People have got accustomed to the comforts of a modern, affluent society and expect life to be better every year. Opinion polls are becoming a regular feature of public life. Leadership has been reduced to the shaping of a policy so that somehow it would be able to carry the majority. And if not the majority, then the plurality, in the hope that it will expand into a majority by the next election. I view this with mixed feelings as a totally different way from what I used to do. In the 1960s, strikes, demonstrations, disorder, and violence threatened our existence. People faced dire choices. Leaders had to lead, make bold decisions, and act swiftly. Only later did I have to convince the people to support our decisions. For example, I had to carry out a campaign to win a referendum to take Singapore into Malaysia. But when bloodshed threatened and the Malaysian government wanted Singapore to be out, I did not. Indeed, I could not hold a referendum and consult the people before I took them out.
Because they have a sound leader.
Disaster. I took the decision, persuaded my cabinet colleagues to sign the separation agreement with me, and embarked on independent Singapore. To build a more stable Singapore, I did not discuss nor ask our different races whether they like to live integrated together in new high-rises. When we were building to replace the squatter huts, I knew what the answer was going to be. They wanted to stay together. But would that be good for us? The British had allowed them to be segregated in Malay villages, Chinese quarters, and an Indian enclave because it was easier to rule such groups of people separate,
divide and conquer,
race, language, and religion. we had to form a nation, or try to. So my colleagues and I decided that the people would ballot for their apartments. And they would have Chinese, Malays, Indians, Eurasians, and others as their neighbors. We did not seek their consent. For the first few years, they were not comfortable. After 10 years, it became a way of life. We did the same in the schools. Children used to be segregated into Malay, Chinese, Indian, and English language schools. Slowly and gradually, I persuaded parents to register their children for schools that use English and the mother tongue as a second language. And when they did so, their children graduated into the best jobs. Now we have schools with all races in mixed classrooms, and integration has become a fact of life. The business of government can be executed effectively only by people's representatives, exercising their judgments based on their mandate. The people had given me a mandate to join Malaysia on fair terms. When the Prime Minister of Malaysia was fearful of a bloodbath, I exercised my judgment to separate without consulting the people. So also racial integration in housing and schooling was part of my mandate, given in elections every 5 years, that I won. The difference between the old guard and the new guard leaders are stark, reflecting the differences between the old society and the new. The old society was a revolutionary situation. People felt that everything, including their lives, were at stake.
I like the way he keeps mentioning integration, integration, integration.
And it's so important now. You cannot lead the people if you do not work with them, get them integrated, and then because the people know what they want. And I made out to sell it like good market sells itself. And you see how he said, the failure of African countries. Because we tell people are watching you, they see what you're doing, they know that what you're doing will never yield the type of result you're going for. You said that leaders were abiding with theory of socialism and state enterprises. Is that not what they're doing? Misallocation of resources. People can see it now. However, we need to maintain social order and uphold rule of law. Do you have rule of law in Nigeria? They need to educate their people. He knew that they needed to educate their people. Not Fulanis that are running inside forest. And also children that are busy begging on the streets. Babi Allah. How do you want to get any meaningful development with all that? Then you need to maintain peace in order to attract investors and create jobs. Is it not simple and straightforward? It's common sense. It's common sense. We're asking our people, so what is the way forward? This video is on their platform. You can watch it in its entirety because we break it down for you to understand where we're going. We are going, like we keep saying, work is going on the ground. We are here to explain to you so that this is part of the integration we are doing. Try to carry our people along, explain and teach things to them so that we understand. Please share these things to your politicians. Share this video to your church leaders, all of them, because their brain, we need to teach their brain.